You're listening to the Bear and the Beard podcast. We're just two nerdy guys talking nerdy things. I'm Robert, the Bear.
And I'm Brian, the Beard. Each week, the Bear and I explore a new topic related to nerd and or pop culture.
We believe there's always a nerdy opinion to be given, so we sit down each week and discuss a new topic.
And we may disagree or argue sometimes, and you may not always agree with us, but please remember at the end of the day, this is mostly our opinion with a little bit of research and fact added in.
And most importantly, the main goal is to have fun. So let's just go ahead and get into it. You ready, brother?
Sure am. Let's get nerdy with it.
Here we go. Have you ever wondered how Natasha Romanoff went from KGB spy to Avenger? Or how about what happened in Budapest? Have you ever, like us, been waiting for what feels like forever to watch Natasha kick butt in her first ever solo movie? Well, wait no more. Black Widow is now in theaters and on Disney Plus Premier Access, and our assembled panel has joined forces to discuss it today. This is your only spoiler warning.
Spoilers.
Okay, now that you've been warned, if you're still here, then let's all go to the red room right after these announcements. Stand by.
Hey, listen!
Hey there, listeners and or viewers, both returning and new to this week's nerdy discussion.
Yes, welcome. Real quick, we wanted to give you just a few announcements.
That's right. We always put them here at the beginning of each episode so we don't distract too much from the topic at hand later on. So we're going to get these out of the way. Bear with us.
Firstly, a huge thanks to everyone for downloading, listening, rating, and reviewing the show. We really appreciate the love and support, and your sharing and rating helps us to get more listeners.
If you enjoy this or watching it, don't hoard it like a sneaky little niffler.
Or that stingy dragon Smog.
That's right. Please, please, please share it with all the other nerds you know, friends, family, all of them.
And you can also find our podcast right now pretty much everywhere you find podcasts. And that's all thanks to Buzzsprout.com, who we thank so much for supplying our episodes to all the other platforms each week.
And for video versions of our episodes, go check out our YouTube channel if you haven't already. Just search the Bear and the Beard podcast or click the link in the episode description.
We also want to invite you to talk nerdy to us. And for that, we have several different options.
That's right. There's the website, the www.thebearandthebeardpodcast.com. No spaces, no hyphens. Brought to you by Wix.com and created by our Bearded Bear team member, Mama Bear.
There's also our email, thebearandthebeardpodcast@yahoo.com. And you can text or leave a voicemail on the nerd line, which is 769-208-4079.
And let's also not forget the Facebook page, The Bear and the Beard Podcast. We want to thank everyone that has already stopped by and liked the page, and we invite you to do the same.
We're proud to report that we've reached over 220 likes so far, and we want to thank everyone who's already shared or interacted with our content as well. If you haven't joined that number yet or stopped by the Instagram page, please do so to stay up to date with all things Bear and Beard.
And lastly, stay tuned for merch coming soon. Shirts, hats, decals, tumblers, and more. Bearded Bear gear will soon be here. I'm wearing one of the hats right now.
That is awesome. Now that that's out of the way, let's get on to this week's topic.
And here we go.
All right, what's going on, ladies and gentlemen, and children of all ages, now that we've started bleeping out all of our curse words? We're back to the Bear the Beard. Thank you. I know where the first one is this episode when I'm editing. You have found your way to or back to the Bear and the Beard podcast. I am the Bear. I'm joined, as always, by my majestically bearded, faithful co-host, Bearded Brian Guy, the Beard. How are you doing today, sir?
I'm doing great. I've been looking forward to this movie for a long time and this episode. We are also joined once again by Mama Bear, our head researcher and graphic designer. Another few familiar faces we have on the panel today. We have Frenchie from our The Boys episode, and actually you've been on so many episodes, it's just hard to say which ones you're on and which ones you're not. And someone that's now falling into that category, since she's pretty much been on every episode since Con. We also have Orey from Geeky Vengeance. How are y'all doing today?
Oh my God, I'm ready to cry. I'm ready to laugh. I'm ready to all the tissues.
You promised me tears. I have tissues. If I don't use these,
I will share. Does anybody need a tissue? It's coming through the camera.
I'm doing well. I am. I'm also excited to talk about this one because I think I might have some differing views. That's kind of how it sounded so far, at least. So.
Okay.
Oh,
Hey,
some
look,
opposition,
wait,
sir.
I want to say real quick, if you do not agree with someone's opinion, that is no reason to be toxic.
Yeah.
All I'm saying to our listeners.
Absolutely.
And we're going to get into some of that because there has been a lot of toxicity around this movie that I personally have come across online. So we're going to talk a little bit about it, but not so much because we want to talk about how awesome the movie was. Real quick, before we do that though, Frenchie, can you show everyone your new tattoo that you showed us?
Oh yes.
Ooh,
Can you-
tattoo.
That's one of my most recent.
That's a
It's a baguette.
It's a baguette.
But why a baguette?
Because I'm Frenchy.
I want to see French bread. I'm done.
He's Frenchy. That's commitment to the podcast right there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So,
I guess I need to get a bear claw tattooed on my arm.
I already have a beard. Do I need a tattoo of a beard underneath my beard?
yes. We're all going to get a beard
Yeah.
tattoo. At the
No.
Yeah.
That'll work.
But yeah.
What about a mustache? I think I could do a mustache.
There
Okay.
you go. Mustache. But yeah, I wanted because we saw that he had that when he was here for Con, and he hasn't been on episode since. But yeah, he actually you have a baguette because you're Frenchy. I love it.
Frenchy.
Yeah. So talking about other things we love. Now I don't know everyone's opinion, but I'm just going to come out right out and say I love this movie. And that's I have my complaints, a few of them. But they're minor, just kind of like with when we did Wonder Woman 84. Very, very minor stuff. And we can get into it later. But overall, great movie. I'm very, very upset that it took so long for us to get it. Not just the fact that a solo female movie starring the solo female character that has been in the movies since Iron Man 2.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because like Brie Larson got a solo movie before Scarlett did. And that doesn't make any sense to me. Like it does, you know, timeline wise, but it doesn't make any sense to me because you could have made one about Natasha a long time ago.
Long
You
time
didn't have to
ago.
wait for her to die. So
One of the things that I found out while doing some research for this, the guy who was in charge of this before Feige took over the universe, like he didn't want it made. Like he said no.
I figure we could set the movie a couple of years in the past, you know, when it would have made more sense to make it. Oh yeah, why did we wait so long to do this? Well, remember that whole leaked email situation with the old Marvel Studios head Ike Perlmutter, where he was like, female-led superhero movies don't make money, and he listed a bunch of examples. Nope, stop. But then Wonder Woman was a success, so I was asked to take a look at our female character roster again.
Stop talking.
Oh, sorry, are we not saying that out loud? We're gonna take that again, okay? Why did it take us so long to do this? I don't know. Oh, fair enough. Better late than never, I guess.
He also said no to Black Panther. And it wasn't until Feige got full control over the MCU that he was allowed to do whatever he wanted. Like, he wanted to make this years ago. So, I mean, like, it would have been a completely different movie. But I also feel it would have set up some more characters. But we wouldn't, with some of the characters, we wouldn't have gotten the story we did out of them. So I'm like kind of a little angry that it took so long, but I'm kind of thankful it took so long. You know what I mean?
It's a terrible thing that had good repercussions.
Exactly.
And one of the things I do want to talk about, I want to know your guys' opinion on this. I have no problem with the change they made to Taskmaster. I thought Taskmaster was awesome. But do you think that they should have had a bigger role in the movie rather than just the bad guy sent after her? Because that's one of her arch nemesis. And it wasn't, it was a big story, but she wasn't like, Taskmaster is the one that she's doing battle with a lot more often. And why didn't they have more of a villain? It's because of what they did with the change, but I feel like there should have been more Taskmaster in the movie. Okay.
You also had to have the build up with the family, like the family aspect of it. And if you had more fight scenes and more, you know, more of that, you would miss so much of the family growth and reconnection and, you know, dealing with all of that.
It's not even so much that I want more fight scenes. I wanted more of Taskmaster. Why can't I not say those two words together? I can say task and I can say master, but I cannot say those two words together. It's impossible.
My opinion on it is kind of like with what Orey said. If you put Taskmaster more in the movie, first of all, with the changes they made to the character, this MCU version, and I'm going to go ahead and say this first installment of this MCU version of this character, because we now have it set up to where Taskmaster is a title once again. It's not the original character from the comic books, and I'm okay with that. It's set up to where now Taskmaster, due to the technology, can be picked up as a mantle. A villainous
she's not going to pick it back up.
Mhm.
Right. So
she's free. She's not under control.
Let's clarify this.
Presumably.
Because of who she is, she was what's his name? Dreykov's daughter.
Mhm.
It was the daughter that Natasha thought she had killed. And one of her biggest sins in her ledger, I think what they did with that character gave it enough backbone in order to make it be what it needed to be.
right.
Yeah, I agree.
I also, on the positive side of Taskmaster, I actually said it right.
Yes!
I love that it was a whole callback to Avengers.
Right.
That's one of the things Loki was throwing at her was Dreykov's daughter. And we just got that one line, and now that expanded on this movie. That was a big part of it. And so I do like that change for that purpose.
And all of the moves that Taskmaster displayed in the movie were like, you could see, like, here's Black Panther. Here's where she's kicking into Black Panther mode. Here's where she's fighting like Clint Barton. Here's where she's just all of them back to back to back. And because there's the scene where she's watching through the visor, she's watching footage from the Civil War fight at the German airport. So she's learning all these. So it was all like a callback to previous movies, because this movie, now, if you haven't seen it, I don't know why you've listened this far so far, but if you're still curious, even after watching it, like, where exactly does this fall? Because the movie was kind of in three different parts. There was the long first part, which was setting up her having a family back in the 90s to before she went to the Red Room. Then there's the Red Room and, a little bit of that. Then there's, right after Civil War. That's where it picks up. Like,
was that before she was in the Red Room? I think she'd already been to the Red Room when they were in Ohio.
No,
I don't think her little sister did.
I see. They never specify that. Like, but you could still be trained by them without being fully processed.
You could be trained by KGB without going through the Red Room at that time. So she had already had some training. I'm thinking early version of the Red Room, or at least that's what I was thinking first when I first watched it. But then even later on in the movie, her mother lets her know, like, I was in and out of the Red Room about 5 times before you even went in the first time. So the Red Room, I honestly think you have to be of a certain age to go. Now, the
Elena was what, 6?
They said she was 6. Yeah.
Yeah. So they may have had to prove themselves or whatever. Okay.
There may have been the whole thing, like, because Red Guardian, who great representation of that character.
Awesome, yeah.
He was great. I love Hopper from Stranger Things, so for him to be in here, it was great. But he even said, to Natasha in that early scene, like, you were younger than that when you went through. So maybe it's not so much that she didn't go to the Red Room. Maybe you're right. Maybe it's the reason she got her training and then she came out for a mission and now she has to go back because
there was that little girl that was way younger than Natasha was in the first Avengers movie, and Bruce Banner asked the question,
"You're an actress, buddy. Is she a spy too? They start that young?"
I did.
Yeah.
She was already a spy at that age. She wasn't waiting to learn stuff.
One thing I really want to talk about is the opening title credits.
Yes.
Malia J, you are she took Nirvana's Teen Spirit and made it haunting and creepy. And every time I've listened to that song probably about 50 times now, and on repeat. And I can, as the song is playing, that title card, the whole title sequence is burned into my retinas. As a woman, and Mom Bear will say this, as a woman herself and as a mom with girls, one of the scariest things is being kidnapped and made to do whatever. So that was nightmare fuel. I mean, beautiful song. It makes me want to fight things. Makes me want to stand up and be like, whatever. That song.
I'm not laughing at the idea. I'm laughing at how you said it makes me want to fight things.
But no, like that whole sequence, you see all of
creepy.
these girls being cattled in these trailers and traumatized. Okay, this is where I may cry. That is one of the biggest fears I have as a mom, of having to have my kids go through anything like that. And there are kids who have to go through that all the time. So, but they're made to do other things, which we will not talk about. But in this, they're being trained to be spies, and they're having their entire lives taken from them, like, and made to do the bidding of someone else. They're being brainwashed and mind controlled, and everything that they have to go through. And like, that was the most powerful scene in any MCU. Like,
That was a title sequence.
And I mean, it's right there. Like, Black Widow throughout the MCU has made you feel things that you never thought you were going to be able to see in an MCU movie. And it was dark and gritty, and it hopefully people not only watched that for the enjoyment, but took from that we need to protect our girls. So,
and that comparison was definitely not an accident by Marvel. That was a statement.
Look,
for sure.
It didn't even start in the Black Widow movie. Look back at Age of Ultron, where she's having that deep conversation with Bruce Banner of, I can't have kids. They took that from me. It wasn't a choice that I had. They took that from me. And, Bruce Banner is like, well, I don't want to have kids anyway because they might be monsters. And, and then there's the whole, so it started.
That weird thing.
Yeah. And more on the title sequence, more on the song. So I'm not going to put the song in here for copyright, but I am going to put a link in here during editing where you can go and watch that. I'm going to put the official link for that music video in here if you haven't heard it or you want to listen to it on repeat like Orey, because we get a small sampling of it in the title sequence. More about the title sequence. Now, this isn't Black Widow exclusive, but something I noticed while watching Loki. Now, we all know the Marvel fanfare opening where it's scrolling through like screen script segments, pictures of the heroes, and then the Marvel logo kind of shows up, and we have all these different things happening in the different letters. Has anyone else noticed that ever since Chadwick Boseman passed away, that the last thing you see that makes the last scene in the letters that makes all the letters straighten out and just be the Marvel Studios logo is him doing the ground punch with the kinetic energy from the Black Panther suit? I didn't notice that until like Loki episode 3, I think. And we're going to do an episode on Loki, which I think is actually going to come out before this. So our timelines are confused all because of that show. So
the TVA is onto us, guys.
Yeah.
The TVA knows everything's screwed
One
up.
more thing.
Miss Minutes, I see you. I see you.
No, I don't want to see that creepy little thing.
And one
Put the
last
thing that where it came from wants to help me.
One last thing on the title sequence too. This is something that Marvel's done really good about, is blending the MCU with the real world. Now, the last time we saw this was when Arnim Zola was explaining to Cap in Winter Soldier, Captain America: The Winter Soldier, how Hydra's been there all along behind the scenes, and they took real life photos of like government people and interactions that have had real life photos and blended MCU characters in. Like put a little Hydra pin on, like, I don't think it was Nixon, but for an example, put a Hydra pin on Nixon, or had Arnim Zola in the background of the actual Operation Paperclip scientists and stuff. They did that again for Black Widow, where they put the head guy of the Red Room in with actual people from the real world, and it blends it. That what did we say earlier? What's it called? The suspension of disbelief is very heavy in what Marvel's doing. It's almost like, okay, this is actually happening. Like,
I think what they're doing is through everything that they're recently putting out, especially within Phase 4, is they are shining a light on all of these dark aspects of humanity. And I mean, with
not just Marvel.
Yeah, well, everything's doing that. I know American Horror Stories did that. There's so many franchises that are like kind of bringing the real world in, because nothing is more frightening and unsettling than the world we actually do live in.
But not even just that. I've noticed that superhero films, especially, and superhero shows like the CW DC universe, they focus a lot on normalizing mental health.
Mm-hmm.
We saw it in Falcon and the Winter Soldier, where Falcon was basically helping Bucky with his trauma he has, which is real. And it displays in almost everything. If you look at even if it's the Black Widow movie, everything has a mental health or real world theme of this is a problem in the world that we need to recognize.
Well, I mean,
whether it's physical or mental.
In Black Widow, a lot of it was the emphasis on family and finding family where you can find it, and repairing old familiar bonds that you thought were broken. And
not just that. A little bit of female, I don't know what's the right word. Basically, the time where they're talking about how they ripped out the uterus and everything like that. That scene in the plane.
I don't get my period, dipshit. I don't have a uterus.
Or ovaries.
Yeah, that's what happens when the Red Room gives you an involuntary hysterectomy.
Okay.
So you can't have babies.
You don't have to get so clinical and nasty.
That was a pretty powerful moment too. You took away everything, and you don't even. Yeah, this is what the happened, and we're going to tell you in the most graphic way possible to gross you out.
I like the way Yelena, was like, well, they took it out of me, and I was like, oh, we going here. We are going here. Yes. And she was so nonchalant about it, but still it was really powerful and impactful, especially when, he's like, well, you came out stronger. And she's like, did I? Really? Okay.
Talking about her real quick, especially something she kind of like, it was serious, but it was also a joke. This was probably more of the joking side, was her making fun of Natasha's pose. Which
you're such a poser.
The first time for anyone that's watched all of the MCU probably as many times as probably all of us have. If you remember back, that is the first time we actually see Scarlett Johansson do anything Black Widow related. Was Iron Man 2.
The role in the pose.
She comes flying in, she does the kicks and stuff, and she lands in that pose. And that pose, every movie ever since. And she's just, you're a poser. It's
a fighting pose. You're a total poser.
I'm not a poser.
And then she does it later, like while she's fighting, and she's like, okay, I kind of like this.
Yeah.
Or when
kind of grossed out by it.
When they're in the store together and she's like, you and you're posing, and then she gets down and awkwardly does it. I'm like, that is hilarious. And then when the payoff came later where she actually lands in the pose and she's like, okay, I'm not mad about this at all. Like,
I thought she actually kind of grossed out about it.
The first time she did it, because she did it a bunch of times actually in the movie. Got it. But the first time she actually did it after making fun of it, she gets up and she kind of shakes and she's like, ugh.
Yeah.
But then she does it again later in the movie, and it's like, okay,
the third time.
Did she say that felt disgusting?
Ugh, that was disgusting.
Yeah.
The first time she did it, yeah. And there might not have been another time, but I'm pretty sure like through all of it, she might have.
Well,
You know,
she did other poses too. It wasn't just the leg out pose. It was like her like stance fighting pose, and I was like, oh, you look at you, poser.
I love when Marvel does the cuts because most of the time the scenes flow pretty much the same way to the next scene, to the next scene, to the next scene. But when they're doing it for comedic purposes, they do these perfect cuts. And the one I can mention in this movie was them talking about the fuel. Oh, we have plenty of fuel. Immediately when that line stops, it cuts to, yeah, we don't have fuel.
Yeah.
I love those cuts because the scene change, the quick scene change is what makes it so funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one thing
the movie was just, I loved it. I did not think that there was going to be that much humor in Black Widow. I thought it was going to be way more serious, and I freaking loved it.
Yeah, it was actually a really funny movie. And see, and now that's something that a lot of fans try to get on Marvel about. They're like, not everything's a joke, Marvel. All right, well, not everything's serious either, Watcher. Like we look. I know that there was a lot of jokes in Endgame, but if there wouldn't have been a lot of jokes in Endgame, I'd have been crying most of the movie.
Yeah.
So I needed
Infinity War 2.
Yeah, dude.
Imagine Infinity War with no jokes.
Infinity War a lot. So.
Well, yeah, I cried during both of them, but that's because I'm a little.
Okay, I'm going to admit this right now. I've cried during every Marvel movie. I'm weak, okay?
One scene that tried to jerk a tear, but I was that dude from Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs, like, get back in there, tear, and suck it back up. So, yeah.
It's enough to make a grown man cry, but not this man. Get back in there, tear.
Dylan, do you have an opinion on anything? Because you've been quiet.
I mean, yeah, like
I've been sitting here like, wait, what does Dylan not like about this?
It's actually not that I didn't like it. I just personally going into it, like even back when the movie was first announced, I personally didn't really feel like we needed a Black Widow movie, and then it came out, and I watched it because I'm gonna watch it. It's an MCU movie, so. And I actually ended up enjoying it a lot more than I expected to, just because, like, I mean, it was awesome. Like, for me, a big part of why I loved it was David Harbour and Florence Pugh as Elena.
Yes!
Like, they stole the show for me, and it was
romance.
Yeah.
It was cute.
So funny.
The actress who plays Yelena is 100% confirmed to be in every single episode of Hawkeye.
Oh, wow.
That makes me excited. And just so you know, she's been my girl crush since The Mummy. Okay. Thank you.
Because for those of you who don't know, if you didn't watch the end credit scene, somehow you missed it, pause for a second, go find the end credit scene, because for some reason you missed it. I'm gonna save you right there. Yeah, right? All right. I hate Valentino so much.
Yeah.
That whatever. Viv, whatever.
Valentino.
Now, all right. So this is where I'm gonna get into the things I didn't like about the movie. So, and I'm so glad that that Frenchie saved himself there at the end, because I felt like Orey find a way to come through this.
I'm like, where does he live there?
Now, I do see the logic of that, because, early on, it was kind of like, why do we need a Black Widow movie? Mm-hmm. For a lot of people, because now I wasn't one of those, because ever since Avengers, I was like, I want to know what happened in Budapest. Like, if you give me a Black Widow movie, I need to know what happened in Budapest, so tell me.
No.
So
we got not Budapest.
Budapest. So, and because of this movie, we got to find that out. We didn't get the movie we exactly thought we were going to get, but we got enough explanation that we can tell from certain scenes of what happened. So there's the scene where she goes back to the apartment she was at. That's where she first runs into Yelena. You look in the wall, and Yelena's like, what kind of gun makes those holes? She's like, not a gun, arrows. Hawkeye. All right, that links that. Then there was the up in the air conditioning vent where there was the tic-tac-toe, Barton versus Romanoff, and they stayed up there for what was it, like a couple of days?
Yeah, I think she said like 3 days.
Yeah. So there's that, and then there was the bombing, which Jeremy Renner actually has a cameo in this movie. It's not a physical cameo. We don't see, well, we do see him in the after credit scene, a picture of him, but he's the voice on the other end of the phone saying, we need a clear go-ahead to do this. That's Jeremy Renner's Hawkeye asking Natasha for confirmation to blow up the building. So
the daughter of the daughter that becomes taskmasters, and we don't care about the dude, but you know we care about the kid.
So the three very very minor things I didn't like about the movie, and I want to get y'all's opinion on them. First of all, why did we need to know where she got the vest in Endgame?
I'm okay with that. Hold on. As a girl, we never have freaking pockets. We never have pockets.
We need more pockets.
Exactly. So many pockets. They can fit so many.
The whole line of Marvel female vests with a bunch of pockets. We're waiting.
I want that vest. Okay, so, but what's really important about that is it's connecting that the fact that they became sisters, not just assassins together. This is kind of what cements the sisterdom of Natasha and Elena. That's another one I cried. Okay, because pockets are important, sisters are important, and it was signifying the fact that then Natasha realizes somebody actually cares about me from my past that I never thought I'd see again.
And it also carries a different toll when people, someday there's going to be a generation of people who have never seen any of these movies, and they're going to watch them in the right sequence, not the order they came out, and they're going to see that before they see Infinity War. And so they're going to see that vest, and they're going to know that attachment that she still has this past she's actually connected to. Whereas we didn't get that. We didn't get that gift because we've already seen it, and we already saw the vest, and it didn't matter to us because we hadn't seen Black Widow yet. If we saw Black Widow first, that would have been a key element in the sequence, in the correct sequence.
Yeah, like her taking.
Someone's going to appreciate that someday.
Exactly. It was. I mean, like y'all have been saying, really, it was about much more than just the vest itself. It was because the whole movie, Natasha was, just refusing to accept the fact that these people cared about her in the slightest, but they actually did. It was her. She was being the difficult one. And then in the end, when she accepts that vest, that's really her accepting all of them as her family.
She has two families now.
Yeah.
Which also.
At the beginning of the movie, when Natasha's young, is there a reasoning for her colored hair?
She was just trying to blend in with American society. So, but she was also like,
but at the time, it was like what 95.
95.
Yeah, that's
so.
Really.
I mean, that's Kool-Aid colored hair, baby. Like that was a kid's thing. Like it was before we had Splat and all this really cool stuff that we can get for our hair. Like that, we would color our hair with blue food. Huh?
We didn't do that, obviously, where I'm from.
I'm from Ohio, and I'm telling you right now, we did it.
Girls didn't do that to their hair because y'all. Now, to go back to Brian's point, there are going to be people out there that are actually going to get to watch these movies in chronological order. And if you're listening to this episode after you've watched all of them in chronological order, and for the first time, thank you for enjoying it. Hopefully, I'd love to get in touch with Millennial Movie Monday and get her input on this. But now
she's not going to watch it for a while, just so you know.
So,
she's really far away, but she will talk. She's so sweet. I love her.
But anyway. Here's my question for those of us that didn't get that gift, as Brian said. Does it change anything for you? These little things, because that wasn't my only complaint. The vest wasn't my only complaint. The fact that they made her dye her hair by the end of the movie. The fact that we just had to know where that stolen Quinjet came from. Little things like that. I think.
Okay, but Marvel does that in every movie since Avengers. They always had to have.
That's not true. they do have some sort of setup, but it's not normally as forced as it is in this movie.
I would disagree. They have a lot of Iron Man served very much of a little role in Spider-Man Homecoming, and yet they had to have him in there because they're trying to connect these movies. They could have just had him at the beginning and maybe something at the end, but they had to keep repositioning him because they force the connection. They had to keep reminding people because some fans, big corporations, think that some fans are dumb. It's not true.
I wouldn't say dumb. So it's
they need a refresher.
It's like building a bridge. You know, you got to have like certain kind of supports coming in and helping you build that bridge, or even like building a building when you're using scaffolding and when you're bringing in concrete. Like you have all these things that have to come together in order to build, you know, this solid structure. And that's what Feige has done with Marvel. Is he's brought all of these. He knows the tools he has. He knows the materials he has to work with. So he's interweaved this entire universe, because that's what it is at this time, and done what he can to make you believe that, you know, these heroes actually know each other, or they've never met before, or there's stories we've never been told, or, you know, oh my gosh, we're surprising you with this. I mean, that's been the one good thing about Marvel, and that's why they are kicking DC's booty talks.
Oh yeah, well, I don't want to get into my DC rant, but DC does not know how to put you. Anyways,
yes.
That's
But I mean, and that's the one thing the team with around Feige has been able to do.
Right. And the Avengers team, I have nothing against Tony Stark being in Spider-Man. I loved Spider-Man. But most of the movies, we don't feel like it's as forced because it's usually a character that interweaves. In Thor Ragnarok, it was Stephen Strange. They always had to put a character in, but I feel like they wanted Black Widow to really shine on her own without any of the other Avengers support, because they could have thrown in Robert Downey Jr. He was alive in this.
Mm-hmm.
But they didn't want to do that because they wanted her to shine on her own. So those little connections to Infinity War was that bridge without forcing another character to outshine her, because she needed to shine.
That's why we got the little pieces.
How about from a new nerd standpoint?
Yeah,
like
our resident new nerd.
When I was watching it, and I was able to, I know what other movie that was from. I recognize. I think it's a lot more to do with not just the fact that we waited so long to get her movie and how awesome it was, but also how about the other people that are finally getting into watching these movies? You know,
for some little girls out there, Black Widow is their first superhero movie. I just want to let you guys know.
Yeah,
and that's really awesome, by the way.
And like I said, for the point of someone that has never watched these movies already, getting to watch this movie where it fits, which, I hate it when they make a movie that goes back before the extending timeline, but whatever. Anyway, that's a personal thing, and I know there's no control over it. But having other characters in movies, I will debate that I highly disagree with Doctor Strange not needing to be in Ragnarok because he helped move the plot forward.
Yeah.
Iron Man and connected to something else.
Iron Man had to be in Spider-Man Homecoming, because if it wasn't for Iron Man, Spider-Man would have never stepped up to be an Avenger. And he, in that movie, proved to Peter, if you can't be a superhero without the Iron Man suit I gave you, you don't deserve it. Mm-hmm. So
I'm not on those characters being in those movies. No.
So the difference being is that most of the time when another character's in the movie, it's to move the plot forward.
Mm-hmm.
Finding out where she got her vest from doesn't really move the plot forward of Infinity War, the movie that came after it.
Not everything has to be a propulsion thing. Like sometimes it's the connection of the emotion and the feeling.
Right.
How about when you
I would argue
her at the end of the movie where she's got her short blonde hair? You know what that reminded me of? Is when she was sitting behind the desk after everybody was snapped away, and you see her colors and her hair and all that. That's what it reminded me of, and it brought me back to that.
I cried. I cried.
That was the small detail. That was the one small detail I didn't mind that they put into the movie, because that's something like why would you change your hair? We never knew why she changed her hair. We knew they were on the run, but we never knew why.
Yeah,
So
but I
mean, in the movie,
you don't have to know the why to every little change. I mean, sometimes, hold on, after something very traumatic, it is very, very usual for a woman to cut her hair. I'm telling you right now, I've done it 35,000 times in my life.
It can be in the movie without having to have a why. It doesn't have to have a why to be in it.
It's Marvel. I don't believe that to be true, but okay.
Well, I mean, there is a why, because she did have her blonde hair in other instances in the movies.
The reason I say this is because we had this same thing or something similar to it happen in Captain Marvel. We had about 3 instances that weren't really necessary. They didn't move the plot of that movie forward. They didn't really change anything about the movies that came out chronologically after it. And that was, how did the Tesseract get into S.H.I.E.L.D. custody? Because we didn't, that was just in there. It wasn't really necessary for it to be in there, but it was in there. How Nick Fury lost his eye, which a lot of people have a problem with. I kind of think it's funny.
Okay, but here's the thing. All the things, are you saying that you think the movies would be better if they didn't put those things in there?
I'm just saying they don't affect the movie at all. So why are they?
They don't have to.
They don't have to be a why. It's just,
hold on, and it doesn't necessarily mean it has to be in that instant that it's answered, because we've had so many things that we thought were plot holes answered in other franchise movies and TV shows.
That's true, but
I just don't think it's that big of a deal that they're in there.
My point is, if you're how can I actually put this into words so that I don't sound like I'm insane? I know I'm insane.
You are insane.
Exactly. I guess the way I'm trying to say it is, if you're gonna waste time on something in a movie this big that doesn't really matter, when you could give us more things that do.
Yeah, but who says it doesn't matter? Just because it doesn't matter right then doesn't mean it's not going to matter.
I loved all those things that you mentioned. Here's another pointless thing that I loved. It was a great moment, but it literally makes no sense why Odin would have a fake Infinity Gauntlet in the armory.
Exactly.
But that was a funny moment for Hela to be like, fake. I loved that. It was so
great.
Didn't have to be in there. Didn't move the plot forward, but I loved it.
Hold on.
That was the plot hole fix, so there was a reason for that to be in there.
Exactly. It later on got answered why it was there. I mean, and even in Black Widow, I mean, Yelena's getting drunk. Nothing ever comes of her actually, doing shots.
It's I don't feel like that's the same thing. That's
it is, because she still fought like she had never drank.
What would you want to replace with?
Basically, I'm not saying replace it with anything. I'm just saying, like, why do we have? Because this isn't the only movie that does it. Captain Marvel's not the only other movie that's done it. MCU's not the only criminals of this. There's a whole YouTube channel called Movie Sins where you can go and watch, and they point out stuff like this.
And I don't like cinema sins.
And maybe I'll just
give movie sins for dumb stuff.
This is what I think. They're sitting in there and they're talking about, oh, that's a 5-second scene. Why are we doing that? Because people's gonna love it. Okay, let's do it.
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah, I love it.
Scene that took 3 days to film when we could have had more Taskmaster, like Brian said, or we could have had.
But if you do that, you
are you saying you don't trust Feige? Are you saying you don't trust Feige?
Coming from the man that asked me why I trust Disney so wholeheartedly when he was trying to convince me of a theory in Loki, and I just said, I kind of trust Feige where he's going with this. Okay. Yes, I do trust Feige, but Feige's not the only power over these movies.
I have a point. Mm-hmm. Because, as you're saying, I don't know.
We've been talking about this for about 20 minutes now, by the way.
No. He's saying we could have used more Taskmaster. Then you oversaturate the character. Then they become annoying, and you just want less of them. You want more of those comic relief, more of those little scenes that you think that don't matter right now, because later on down the line, Feige's going to fill that stuff in for a reason.
That's
for a reason. And plus, we're getting the multiverse coming up. it ain't no telling where anything's gonna go. That this could have way more importance later on.
I love that the new nerd brings up the multiverse first of all.
That's all I was thinking through Black Widow and through Loki, and I was just thinking multiverse is going to explain more. Multiverse is going to tell us more. We getting more in the multiverse.
Now, not just the multiverse, but the TVA is a great way for them to not so much bring characters back, and I'll talk about this a little bit more in the Loki episode.
Or rewrite them.
But they don't have to they don't have to do anything. They can just be TVA agents. So we still get that character, but they're not the character that died. And they're not reinserting themselves back into the timeline, but they can make appearances. Like, I believe Loki is going to be in Doctor Strange Multiverse of Madness. I'm not saying Loki is returning to the timeline and trying to act like he's alive. No. He's removed. His only home is the TVA now. But they can do that now. So they could eventually, I'm not saying they will do this, they could have a ScarJo be a variant in the TVA.
Like, she could be Elena. Or, you know, she could be the new Taskmaster. Like, there's so much they could literally do with her.
Everything is opened up in so many ways.
Yeah.
On the Taskmaster thing, like, I think the amount that we got in Black Widow was just perfect. Because I can't wait to see
the character they were doing, yes.
Later on with her and her character and growing it. Because that's what I feel like is coming in the multiverse.
Keep in mind, Malia has no idea who Taskmaster originally is in the comic books.
So here's the beautiful thing.
For her to say that, that's a beautiful thing, yeah.
Hold on. We're going past that. Because it gives her fresh eyes to, like, look at something for what it is and not compare it to something than what it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I don't care if they take a character and they change every single thing about it and turn it into something else. That's another thing that's just imaginative from somebody who's creating something, and I think it's beautiful.
Well, and what
there's only a few incidents where I just don't like the way that they do things, but that's just how I see it.
And what everyone needs to understand, and we'll kind of get into this, and I just want to say one more thing on that whole thing. Those were my only little things. I still love the movie overall. They didn't bug me enough to where I was upset about them. It's just a matter of the why. But you're right. Maybe everything doesn't need a why. Maybe I just need to open my mind.
So stop being pedantic.
I don't even know what that
just
word
enjoy
means.
it. Basically, the way the consumer is seen as a, like, we're just big dumb, like, give me. And I'm really that way with this movie. All those things that you mentioned that upset you, I was just like, yes, give me. I didn't care about the why. I just wanted to watch it because it's fun.
So to move on to something like awesome, how about the fight scene? The first fight scene between Elena and Natasha. That, okay.
Yeah, where they have to call a truce. Oh, that was awesome.
Because they're like going at each other and they're like, but they're still being funny and kind of cute about it. Like, you could tell they're not really trying to hurt each other, but they're trying to hurt each other like siblings.
And what I really loved about it, too many fight scenes do jump, and you can't even see what's going on. And for a while, before I watched John Wick or before I watched this, the only time I actually got those cool fight scenes was in TV shows like Arrow, where they have the camera going with them while the fight's going on. And then John Wick came in and said, oh, we can do that too, but in movie form. And Black Widow did it too. You actually see what's happening in the fight sequences.
So what the fight...
But yeah.
Yes.
No, okay. We're going to go further back because it reminds me of the old Kung Fu movies. That gave me that whole feeling like of this great dance that they were doing, but then adding in, you know, the modern close up, and oh my god, they were beautiful. It was like dancing. They were dancing.
All the fight scenes in this movie were great. I will say sometimes the tension came too quickly. I hated when beautiful moments were interrupted by immediate tension. And this was really a crime in the beginning of the movie. It felt like every second the characters stopped to take a breath. Oh, hey, here comes threat.
See, I kind of like that, though. I think at least
I didn't hate it, but it was just like,
well, it kept you enthralled.
I think it kind of immersed you in her world, at least, like in the world of like the spies and Black Widows and everything. That's literally the life that they live, and you get that feeling watching the movie.
Well, you start out the movie with a family, and everything's nice and happy, and you really believe that they're family. Like, you have no idea who these people are yet, and then you're watching, and then you're like, then they talk about going on an adventure, and you're like, oh, you know, are they running from the Black Widows? What's going on here? I have no idea. And then the next thing you know, there's this huge like chase scene, and they're trying to get away, and there's fighting, and then there's gunfire, and then there's flipping vehicles, and I'm like, oh God, yes, more of this. And then, you know, the slowdown for the moment of when the girls are handed off, you know, and I'm just like, it kept me enthralled and ready to see where this was going. So I don't know. I kind of really like the fast pacedness when it did start to hit.
It just felt like they really were showing you these characters not getting a second to breatve.
Yeah.
And I think that was
they caught me off guard because not a lot of movies do it. I didn't hate it. It was like, whoa.
It's a very, very common thing in TV shows, not so much movies, but in TV shows where they'll do that. Like, I, for one, and I know a lot of people probably don't even remember that this show exists. I'm a huge fan of Burn Notice.
Mm-hmm.
It's an old TNT USA show. So, and it's about a spy named Michael Weston. And that show really, like, every episode is, here's this quiet moment. All right, here's a problem. We got to solve it or else someone's going to die. End of the episode is that now is, and then like some episodes pick up right at the next day from that problem being a thing. Like, there's not a lot of whole lay down time in that show. Same thing with like shows like Arrow and Flash and stuff like that. There's always something on the horizon. It's just, we don't think about it so much when we think about superheroes, because we don't think about it in those aspects, because we're like, this superhero has a new problem that they have to solve. They're going to solve it. At the end of the episode, everything's going to be okay, because that's what we've been taught about superheroes. So we don't see it a lot. So you're right. It caught me off guard a little bit too. Another thing that caught me off guard a little bit in that scene Orey was talking about where they're first fighting is, I didn't realize this, but my favorite gun trick is when someone takes the gun out of the other person's hand.
Love that. This
is the first time I think I've seen it done to where it was so well done that both of them did it to each other and still had the gun pointed at each other.
Well, and that's what's great. That's what showed they had like the best training, because they knew how to counteract each other. And then that was reflected that was reflected later even with Taskmaster, is the level of training that these people had to go through, especially these girls. And I'm going to tell you that.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I'm going to tell you that's why I was happy that Taskmaster was a female, because it continued with that.
Also, the awesome thing that they really show that Elena is on ScarJo's level. Like, they are both the same level of badassery. So if they're doing what I think they're going to do and make Elena the new Black Widow, it's not a far stretch, because what can Black Widow do that she can't do better with more training?
Yeah.
The hair flip.
The hair flip.
I can't do it right now because I'm wearing headphones.
Yeah.
Why can't you do it?
We're getting you a wig for for things.
So I don't really have anything else to talk about this movie, but I do want to bring up one. How f***ed up was the pig scene? Like, was that? Was that just?
I raised pigs. That hurt me to watch that.
I mean,
To explain the pig scene, Melina has bioengineered these pigs with this mind control substance to be able to be controlled by a touchpad. You know, one of these great little things. And she's like, "You can't breathe now." And then the pig starts breathing, and they're having a chat. And Natasha's like, "Aren't you going to do something about that?" And she's like, "Oh, it'll be fine." And they still have a chat. They're still chatting. The pig passes out. I'm like, oh my God, that's dark. I like you, Melina. I may get on your level. I need that for my followers, my listeners.
She said it's okay. He had 7 more seconds or something.
Yeah.
What?
Can we talk about the fact that a Russian spy kid's favorite song was American Pie?
That was the cutest thing while they're sitting there and, she's mad. She's so angry. And then the next thing you know, he starts singing American Pie and she's like, fine.
He remembered it.
Yeah.
Because he made it seem, and that was really a powerful moment. It's a simple song, but he made it seem as if the time in America was just like that was the worst time of his whole life.
Mm-hmm.
It wasn't. He had value in it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's the thing. Like they were all trained to not care, and for him to let down his guard in that and say, hey, I remember something that made you happy, and after all these years you guys were my kids. Like, I'm telling, there was so much crying during this movie. I
would say they've been trained to act like they don't care. I think every single one of them cares about a lot of things a lot, but they're trained to suppress and suppress and suppress. That way, I don't think any of them were. I believe some people can not care, but I don't think any of these four.
Yeah, they were not narcissistic or sociopathic. Like, I think.
And to go back to Frenchie's point of how it seemed like Nat was the only one that was kind of like being like trying not to care. Mm-hmm. I think that is more to, she found a family in the Avengers that actually treated her like family. Mm-hmm. And so she had those two side-by-side comparison in her head. Like, here's these people that genuinely care about me. Here's these people that, for all I know, it was all an act. So I'm going to pretend like that didn't matter. So that's another like kind of little sub arc that we get in this movie is Natasha coming to terms with the Avengers are not the only people that care about her.
Yeah.
Well, go ahead.
I was just gonna say she even says that at the end. She's like, "Yeah, I guess I have two families when before I thought I had none."
Yep.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
and what's really cool about it is it makes her death even more impactful. I went back and watched her death. Originally watching her death, you think her only family is the Avengers. I mean, Cap even said that when they asked, "Did she have a family?" Yeah.
Where all she's got.
Well,
yeah.
Now we know that the Avengers are not all she had. Her sacrifice wasn't just, all the Avengers are the only family I have. I had to sacrifice for them. She's also sacrificing for another family that she just got.
And
well, actually, that's not just got.
Or realized she still had.
And that's another problem I have with why it took so long for this movie to come out and get made. Really, is because that this whole movie now makes that statement of Cap's inaccurate.
Mm-hmm.
He believes it. He believes it.
Well, yeah, and all of them probably don't know about the other family, but that scene, when we see that, we feel an emotion of when someone asks, "Did she have any family?" and Cap's like, "Yeah, we were her family." We feel that emotion of this is her only family. Now we have this movie that proves that that's inaccurate. Now it's still accurate to them, to those characters. So it's okay. And now we even know, but it would have been nice to know before she passed away that she actually had two families and that this family, the Avengers, thought that they were the only one. And it was actually two. Because now
Natasha's
they're
not
going to find out.
Well, Natasha's not one of those kind of people to betray a lot of personal information. So maybe she never told them. Like, she was so busy trying to keep everything together, taking over lead of the Avengers, that she was mind boggled. She had so much going on that maybe her and Cap didn't have those discussions. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, we don't know what's transpired between then and now, because when she came back right into the fray.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but I don't see how she couldn't have had that conversation with Barton.
Well, but also with her spy background. Also, we don't know that Barton doesn't know about her other family.
And also the point that she actually convinced herself, and the entire time she knew the Avengers up until Infinity War, which so much happened between then that there was never a time for that conversation. Before then, she believed this family was dead to her, that it was all a sham. Whether she actually believed that internally, whatever she had deep down, that's for fan interpretation. But she believed the Avengers were her only family until we see her in Infinity War.
Until before Infinity War, yeah.
Well, and she may have not had enough time to actually process everything for herself to talk about it. I mean, because one thing that we're starting to learn about, Marvel is they are talking a lot about mental health. We don't talk. There are things I don't know about you guys. There's things you don't know about me. A lot of people don't know that, I have kids, and I don't talk about it a lot because not everybody needs to know my business. I mean, I don't hide them, but I mean, it's not something that random people on the street need to know. I mean, now all these listeners know that I have children, but it's not like I hide them. I'm just very close because I have little girls, and the one reason that whole scene impacted me. I work in a public setting. I work PR and media. People, come and talk to me on the street. I'll be out at an event. I don't need people to know that I have little girls. To me, that's an important security thing. And we don't know that Yelena's not off doing things, super secret spy stuff. So, maybe she asked Natasha not to say anything.
True.
Yeah.
And that's another problem with this movie coming out when it did. Like, I really wish it had come out at least on time. Like, I really wish it would have been made a lot earlier. But I wish it would have come out on time because thanks to that after credit scene, we now know that scene should have happened before Falcon and the Winter Soldier. In my opinion, and this might just be my opinion, I think that would have been a great way to be first introduced to Viv and then have her show up in Falcon and Winter Soldier. We would have already known what I've already suspected. She's up to some no good. So,
you want to know what
they really left it up to the whole she goes both sides, but no, she's trying to get her to kill Hawkeye, which I believe that story is going to play out majorly in the Hawkeye series.
Oh, absolutely.
But
that shows she's
government. Hawkeye is still a criminal because during the events of Infinity War, after losing his people, he went around the world and killed people. So technically,
is he a criminal though? He's an anti-hero.
He's of the government. He is.
Yeah, whatever. He's a superhero. Gets a pass.
Does the government know that he did? I know the Avengers knew, but it seemed like it was a rumor to the Avengers when he was Ronin, and then it was confirmed when she went and confronted him because he was good at what he did. He didn't show his face. It wasn't until Natasha came and found him that he removed his mask. So do they think there's this threat that they don't know is him?
Well, people kind of knew who he was because, I mean, in the beginning of Endgame, that guy is like, hey, I know who you are. Why are you're now a bad guy? I mean, he literally says something to that effect.
If he was wanted by the government, why would he go back to his family and endanger them?
Well, because they've always been secret anyway. He can hide. But my answer to that, my point I'll point out to you is, if everyone at Sword knew that Wanda was strong enough to single-handedly take on Thanos, how did they not know that Barton was Ronin? I mean, because only the Avengers were there, right? Like, if they knew that fact in WandaVision, I highly doubt that no one knows in the government that Barton was Ronin and that he killed a lot of
they gave him a free pass because of everything that was happening, and he may have been able to do some things through the government.
General Ross does not look like a man that gives free passes to a lot of people.
Nobody cares about General Ross. He's actually, he always loses.
Under the Sokovia because he's an Avenger. So
can he just go back to how he was at the end scene of Hulk, drunk in a bar with no hope in the world?
No, I want him to go into full Thunderbolt Red Hulk Ross. That's where I want him to go.
I think we're gonna get
not
that
unless
in
they
the
bring
She-Hulk
Hulk
show.
back to his full. See, I want Hulk versus Red Hulk.
Yeah,
but I still don't know the answer to, did Hulk sacrifice any of his strength becoming Professor Hulk, or is he still as strong as he was?
There's so many questions.
About that when we do a She-Hulk episode.
There's so much more coming, and we just need to strap in at this point. I'm here for the long haul. As long as they keep putting it on Disney Plus and I don't have to leave my house, I'll be fine.
Right.
And they had all of 2020 to just brainstorm. So I believe whatever ideas they had before 2020 are magnified now because they had time.
All I can think of is that meme where what's his name is like conspiracy theory board, and he's like got the red eyes, and he's like yes, and all the red lines, and he's yeah. That's what I think Feige was like during 2020.
So we know that Elena's going to come back in the future, and we know that you guys are coming back in the future of episodes. But right now, we got to wrap this up. We've been talking a lot. What I do want to do real quick though
There's
is
so much more we can talk about though.
we can in the future, because this is going to have long-lasting effects, I'm sure. I do have two things for a Talk Nerdy segment. I gotta find. They're pretty much just comments that have been on our post, but that's one way to talk nerdy to us. So I'm gonna bring that up real quick for our Talk Nerdy segment. Let's play that intro music.
Hello, can you hear me?
Hello, the Bear and the Beard appreciate your input. Here are some of the things that you, as fans, had to say. It's talking nerdy time.
All right, this first one coming to us as a comment on our YouTube video of, let me make sure this was the correct video. This was on, this was on our Comic-Con post show. It's from Lord Jenna. It says, thank you guys for all the kind words. You guys were one of my favorite interactions, 100%. I definitely would have fit right in on the Flash episode. I'd be down if you ever need my vast youthful knowledge, LOL. So thank you, Jenna. Jenna's actually been messaging us on our Facebook page about a lot of stuff. She started crocheting.
Yeah.
We're talking about getting her on some episodes and stuff like that.
She's like her and I on Instagram.
Yeah.
Keep crocheting. Keep doing it.
See, we get to talk in it's kind of like having a group chat, because me, Bear, and Mama Bear are all admins on our Facebook/Instagram page. So when she messages the page, all three of us get to chat. We just put our little, the Beard, the Bear. So we all three get to just chat, and it's awesome.
So I get to be an admin. I've just joined the podcast at this point.
Also, next one coming to us. Now, this was a comment when we shared that our fan opinion power back on Friday from this recording. This will be weeks back by the time this comes out. But Greg commented just on the post itself, said, I have to say that me and my friends don't form opinions about anything until we have watched it. You get so many negative and positive things, but can't make your own opinions until you've seen it yourself. Great video today, everyone. A real eye-opener. Thank you, Greg, for that.
Gold star for Greg.
Yeah. Greg's awesome. Greg's actually talked to us a few times about giving us some stuff to donate, or he's going to donate some stuff for the next time we do raffles and stuff. So we're in contact with him. He was one of our raffle winners. He wore a shirt that says, always be yourself unless you can be a bear, and then be a bear when he came to pick up his prize. So because of that, I'll now wear that shirt, and it's going to be. So, but other than that,
is that sucking up?
I don't know. I think it was just I asked him where he got it. He's like, it was a gift. So I don't know if he wore it intentionally or subconsciously.
I think wearing it intentionally was what happened there.
Absolutely.
That's some brown nosing, sir.
It's sucking.
Right.
It's good sucking up. You still get your gold star.
So guys, really appreciated y'all being here for this trip to the Red Room with us. We do have more to discuss on this.
Let's all go to the Red Room. Let's all go to the Red Room and get our brains washed. Sorry.
Yeah, to get our brains washed. I'm sure we'll talk about this more, especially as Hawkeye comes out, stuff like that. The ramifications of this movie will be forever felt. But great episode, great movie, great hanging out with you guys. But we do need to get out of here. In the meantime, I've been the Bear.
I've been the Beard.
I've been the Babe.
I've been the Bread.
AKA
Frenchie.
I've been Mama Bear.
And we want to remind you, as always, to stay awesome,
stay bearded,
stay nerdy,
and much love.
Stay nerdy. Yeah, stay nerdy. Orey said it. Stay nerdy and much love, guys. We'll see y'all next week. Until then, we are out of here.
Boom, cut the check. All right.
Whew, another episode done. Thank you so much for listening.
New episodes are released every Friday at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time. So check back each week or subscribe on your device so that it downloads automatically.
Apple users, please don't forget to rate and review on the app. And you can also now review us on Facebook. This helps us find more listeners, or more listeners find us.
As always, the links to the Facebook page, email, Nerdline, and website can be found in the episode details so you can talk nerdy to us. Your ideas or feedback may even be shared in future episodes.
Lastly, a huge thanks to the rest of the Bearded Bear team.
Our graphic designer and head researcher, Mama Bear Christine.
Our master of marketing, Han Brolo Matt.
And all of our geeks of the round table. Brocius Mayo, my guys.
Mayo Brocius, my dude. We'll talk at you next week, nerds. Till then, stay awesome,
stay bearded,
and much love. Bye.